Hey everyone, welcome back to Transformational Tuesdays with Tasha. I am super excited about being here with you tonight. I would love for you, if you are joining me from whatever platform, Facebook, YouTube, or LinkedIn, let me know that you're here with me. And this would be my here with y'all. So let me know in the comments who you are, what platform you are watching me from, whether it's Facebook, YouTube, or LinkedIn. And as I'm waiting on the comments to come in, I just want to say thank you to everyone who was on last week. Last week was really just the introduction for Transformational Tuesdays with Tasha. If you did not get a chance to watch the video, you can definitely check it out on my website, maximizegrowthllc.com, in the video section. But we're on a journey right now with Transformational Tuesdays where we are going to be studying atomic habits. So if you're just joining me for the second time or the first time, let me know in the comments who you are and let me know which platform you're watching me from, because I love to interact with people as we're having this conversation tonight. So, like I mentioned, we're going through the book Atomic Habits by James Clear. And just a couple of housekeeping things. Tonight, we're going to be focused on chapter 1. I know the end of last week, I said that we were going to do the whole first section, but then I thought about it. Rush. And so, what I want to do tonight is really just kind of do a deeper dive into one chapter. And every week, when we get together, every Tuesday, we're going to dig deep into a chapter of Atomic Habits. So, tonight, we're focused on chapter 1. And the topic for tonight is the surprising power of atomic habits. Hi, Dr. Reese. Good evening. Thank you for joining me on YouTube. I appreciate you joining me tonight. So, tonight we're talking about the surprising power of atomic habits. And these typically will go 30, 45 minutes. I don't want to rush this. I definitely want us to dig deeper into this as we're growing together. And I do have to say this on these Transformational Tuesdays with Tasha, I'm not selling anything, y'all. I'm coming solely for one purpose, and that's to add value for me and for you so that we can grow together. So if you know somebody that could benefit from this conversation around habits, personal growth, development, please share this. Please share this and let them know we're going to be together every Tuesday at 7 o'clock p.m. going through this book, Atomic Habits. So let's dig deeper into this chapter 1, okay? So chapter 1, he starts off with the story. The author, James Clear, he starts off with a story around British cycling. And I thought this was interesting because he said that in Great Britain, professional cycling was a thing as far back as 100 years, and it was mediocre. They, really didn't do a whole lot of tremendous things. He said in the 100 years, they may have won one single gold Olympic medal, which was back in 1908. And he said no British has ever won the Tour de France, which is really the cycling's biggest race ever. It'd be kind of like the equivalent of the Super Bowl in our day, or, something big like that. But he said they were so bad, like in Great Britain, they were really horrible that even bike manufacturers were like, you know what, we don't want to sell to them because we don't want to associate with them, because what if our name gets attached to that? We don't want to associate basically with losers, is what they were saying. So it was so bad that they refused to sell bikes to others with their name attached to it. It was really bad. So they had to make a shift. They decided one day to bring in a gentleman by the name of Dave Brailsford. And Mr. Brailsford was hired to change the trajectory of this losing streak that they've had for as far back as 100 years. And they brought him as the new performance director. That was his role. And they wanted him to come up with some strategies so that they can stop losing and start winning. And the thing about him, the thing that drew them was that they actually loved his philosophy around systems and change and process and all of that. And so basically what he said was this: if we're going to win, if we're going to get on a winning streak, it's not going to be the big changes that we make. He said we need to create tiny changes. and make tiny improvements to everything that we do. And he said, that's how we're going to break everything down and accomplish things. He said, we're going to improve it 1% at a time. And he said, then when we can improve things 1% at a time, he said, then we're going to start to see significant increase. Okay, so hope y'all are following me. So this history of professional cycling in Great Britain, 100 years of losing, only one gold medal in 100 years. They bring in this man and he says, y'all, it's not going to be the big things that do it. It's the small changes that we make, 1% improvement at a time, right? And so here's a list, a sample list. I'm not going to go through all of them, but here's a sample list of some small improvements that this gentleman brought. One of them was they started testing out different massage gels for faster muscle recovery. Small improvements, y'all. Then they hired a surgeon to teach each rider the best way to wash their hands to reduce the chances of catching a cold. You would think, what does that matter, right? Then they determined the type of pillow and mattress that led to the best night's sleeps for each rider. And one other change, small change that they made is they painted the inside of the team's truck white, which helped them to spot little bits of dust that would normally go slip by unnoticed. And that basically meant that they could keep the performance of the bikes up. Now, these changes were very small and would almost seem insignificant and not really noticed by a whole lot of people. But his theory of the 1% change, this is what it led to, some major results. 5 years later. Now, first of all, can we just pause right there? How many of you all have tried to make a change and got frustrated because you didn't see an improvement in the next month? Hello? Or maybe you didn't see the improvement in the next year. This, guys, they basically waited 5 years. They just started with the 1% improvements, 1% changes, and 5 years later, this is what started happening. The British cycling team dominated the road and track cycling events at the 2008 Olympic Games in Beijing. They won an astounding 60% of the gold medals available. This history, basically, they went 100 years with only getting one gold medal. 5 years later, after making some 1% improvements, they started winning and they won 60% of the gold medals at 1 year, right? Then 4 years later after that, so now we went from 5 years to 9 years. Now, remember what I just said, Martise, right? Sometimes we give up after, and I got my hands raised because I'm guilty of this. I can get impatient like the most. So we give up or we get frustrated because we haven't seen things change. So here we are now, 9 years later. This is what happened. In London, the Brits raised the bar as they set 9 Olympic records and 7 world records. So now, not only are they improving where they're getting gold medals, now they're breaking records, not just in their own country, but across the world, y'all. 9 years of 1% improvement. And then check this out. During the span of 10 years, 2007 to 2017, British cyclists won 178 championships, 66 Olympic or Paralympic gold medals. And remember that race I talked about, Tour de France, which is the biggest cycling event? They basically captured 5 Tour de France victories. And at that time in 2018, that was considered the most successful in cycling history. So, y'all, I wanted to start with this story because how do you go from 100 years of losing to all of a sudden what looks like an overnight success? It was the 1% improvements. And his theory, just like Mr. Clear, the author of this book, Atomic Habits, the theory was it's the small habits that make a difference, y'all. How many of y'all, like me again, every time I talk, I'm going to say me too. Okay. But how many times do we think it's about the massive action? Sometimes we think, am I the only one, that we've got to go big or it's got to be this major production for us accomplishing something or even just getting started to something. Can we use something as an example? Business. We'll use business as an example. So sometimes I've been in business almost 20 years now, and I've heard people say, I'm going to start a business. And then all of a sudden they think they're supposed to hit six figures as soon as they started. Or you see this stuff on social media now, buy your LLC and now you can, you'll blow up, right? But that's not always the case. There are some one hit wonders out there, y'all. There's exceptions and extremes, okay? But for the most part, it's not going to be the big things that we do that give us that quote unquote overnight success. It's going to be the habits. And here's the thing, sometimes it's the small habits that go unnoticed or barely seen by others. And so we have to, I always say this thing, we have to learn, we have to unlearn, and we have to relearn. And so, how many of you all have been guilty? And Mertice, thank you for your honesty. How many of you all, like me and Mertice, have been guilty of being impatient when it comes to progress, right? I love that, Dr. Reese. Effort, work, and faith. That's a great combination right there. And so, what Mr. Clear is saying in this chapter, where he's talking about the surprising power of atomic habits, is he's really saying that habits are really the compound interest for self improvement. Now, most of the time when we hear those words compound interest, we're thinking of the terms in the financial realm. But here we're talking about growth and progress. And if we're going to grow and we're going to see the overnight success, so to speak, which I know that sometimes it takes 20 years to be an overnight success or more than 1 year, it's going to be the habits that we form. And he says the same way that money multiplies through compound interest, the effects of your habits multiply when you repeat them. And he said the same way that we can see the 1% improvement, just like I just got through talking about with this, with the whole history of British cycling, it can work in reverse as well. 1%, when we repeat the 1% errors, guess what, y'all? Day after day, we don't just land in failure. We don't, when I say failure, the things that go wrong, it's not like we make a decision today and all of a sudden everything blows up tomorrow. It can work in reverse too, because it's the 1% day by day of the poor decisions we make daily. We duplicate the same mistakes. We rationalize little excuses. All of those small choices in reverse can lead to toxic results. So here's the thing, it works either way. Here's the beauty of all this, we get to decide the direction. We literally get to decide the direction. I have this thing that I'm sharing lately in my trainings about what's in my control and what's not, what's out of my control. What's within our control is making the choice to say, I want to progress. And what that means is now when we make a choice, what has to happen is we have to create the habits. We have to create the habits that will sustain the choice, right? So daily habits can guide your life to a very different destination. You get to decide the direction. Are y'all following me? Is this helping somebody so far? Let me know in the comments. Tracy, thank you for that. Me. I like to know that who I'm talking to, because it's me too, y'all. But our daily habits guide our life and we get to choose the direction, y'all. We literally get to choose. And he says in this chapter that success is a product of our daily habits. It's not a once in a lifetime transformation. So yeah, we're in January and we're hearing the new year, new you, all the different phrases and slogans when we enter a new year. But some of the things, some of the results that we're going to see, they didn't just start this year. Some of the results, some of the progress, the bit of what you're reaping, they probably happened last year or the year before or 5 years before. You know what I'm saying? It didn't just happen just all of a sudden because we are now in a new calendar year. Typically, what happens is it's going to be a product of our day to day habits. And really, if he says here, it doesn't matter how successful or unsuccessful you are right now. What matters most is whether your habits are putting you on the path to success. Every last one of us can look at our own lives. We don't need anybody to tell us what I'm about to say. Every last one of us can look at our own lives and we can literally answer the question, what am I doing that's taking me closer to where I want to be? Or what am I doing that's taking me further away from where I want to be? Am I lying? Like right now, am I lying? You don't have to put your business out there, but say true. Just type true in the chat if you agree with me. We know the habits that are positive and we know the habits that are negative. Just type true if you believe me in the chat. We don't need anybody to tell us that. We pretty much know. We pretty much know. So the thing is, thank you. Thank you for that, y'all. Thank you, Danita. Thank you, Tracy. Thank you, Dr. Reese. Thank you. So if we know what we should do, why don't we do it? Don't answer that. Don't answer that. If we know what to do, we know why we should do it. Why don't we do it? Why aren't we seeing the progress that we could be seeing? He says, your outcomes are a lagging measure of your habits. Your habits can compound for or against you. And he talks about, if you're following along in the book, there's a section on page 20 and 23 where he talks about what progress is really like. And he describes the ice cube. And I thought this was interesting because he said, imagine, like, go there in your mind with me. You're in a room and it's freezing cold and it's 25 degrees and there's an ice cube or ice cubes sitting on the table and they're frozen solid. If you change the degree in that room to 26 degrees, it's still going to be frozen ice cubes on the table. 27 degrees, 28 degrees, the ice cube is still sitting in front of you. You take it up another 29 degrees, 30, 31, nothing's happening. It's cold and the ice cubes are still on that table, frozen solid. But the moment that you get to 32 degrees, 1 degree, 1% of improvement, the ice begins to melt. He says breakthrough moments, they're often the results of the many previous actions which build up to the potential required to unleash a major change. Some of y'all are on the right track, and I want to encourage you tonight. Keep going. Keep turning it up. Keep doing your 1%. Keep doing what you know to do. Don't be discouraged just because you don't see the results that you desire right now. Some of us, we have to improve our patience, and we just need to keep doing the thing. Keep doing what we know to do. Keep showing up. Keep doing your affirmations. Keep praying. Keep meditating. Keep showing up to stuff like this where you're encouraging yourself, you're challenging yourself, you're feeding yourself. Keep doing it. It's not that it's not that it's not working. It's just 1% improvement day by day. This is what he said. I'm going to repeat it. Breakthrough moments are often the result of many previous actions, which build up the potential required to unleash a major change. Some of y'all have experienced this, and it's like all of a sudden it felt like, okay, now I have breakthrough. You've seen this with actors and actresses in Hollywood where people are getting Oscars and they have this breakout movie role. They've been acting for 20 years, but all of a sudden it's that one role. It's the thing that they said yes to. And all of a sudden, now more people are starting to know them and be exposed to them. And people are even asking, where did they come from? But they've always been here on the scene. So some of y'all, I just want to encourage y'all tonight. You're doing it right. Keep doing it. But then again, remember what I said. We know the things that are habits that are toxic. We know the things that are good. So some of y'all, I want to encourage you. You might be sitting in some toxic habits and you might be beating yourself up and thinking, when is this going to end? Whatever. Stop judging yourself and just make the 1%, like change the channel. Change the channel. Do your 1%, like do what's most obvious to you today. And then tomorrow when you wake up, 1% improvement. Again, this thing can work for you or against you, but I believe that we all want progress. I believe it. I'm just crazy enough to believe that. And there's some things that we have to get right. And a lot of times it's the habits. It's the habits that we have to learn, unlearn, and relearn. Habits often appear to make no difference until you cross a critical threshold and unlock a new level of performance. I want to share this that he put in the book here. I want to share this image with you all. He talks about the plateau of latent potential. So, do y'all see on the very bottom where it has the valley of disappointments? On the very bottom. And he says, at the end of the day, he said, anytime that you're in the early or the middle stages of a quest, you know, you make a decision. Let's say you're the 1% and you've been having some bad habits and you want to change and all this. He said, in the early and beginning stages, he said, there is the valley of disappointment. He said, you make a decision, you want to change. You may even be seeing some traction, some progress, some growth, but there's still that disappointment. And sometimes the disappointment comes because we think I should be further along, right? Hello? We think I should be further along. I should have more than, I shouldn't, whatever the case is. And we experience that disappointment and you're expecting to make progress. But it's frustrating because you feel like, you know, the days, the weeks, and months are ineffective. But he says here that what is required is time. And he said, if you look at the valley of disappointment, what happens is you have this crossroad between what you think should happen and what actually happens. But if you give it time, you will see the results. We have to stop giving up too soon. And he says people make a few small changes and fail to see tangible results, and then they decide to stop. But look at the crossroad intersection between what actually happens and what you think should happen. There is an intersection. Do y'all see that? There is an intersection to where what actually happens actually goes up. Do y'all see that? It actually goes up. The results actually go up. But if we quit too soon, we will never see the progress. It is possible to overcome the valley of disappointment. It is possible that we can have patience and do the habits that we know to do, the progressive, the positive habits. It's possible. If we don't give up, we will see results. Do y'all see that? And he says here, if you find yourself struggling to build a good habit or break a bad one, it's not because you have lost your ability to improve. It's often because you have not crossed the plateau of latent potential. He said, when you finally break through, that's the intersection right there, because now that thing is going up of what actually happens. When you finally break through, that's what people are calling this overnight success. But look at the time that it took to get there. Are y'all following me? I just wanted to show you that visual tonight for sure. Is this helping somebody? And at the end of the day, what's required is patience. It's patience. He has a quote in the book. I want to read this. I thought this was really, really good. He says, when nothing seems to help, I go and look at a stone cutter hammering away at his rock, perhaps 100 times, without as much as a crack showing in it. Yet at the 101st blow, it will split in two. And I know it was not the last blow that did it, but all that had gone before. All big things come from small beginnings. Do not despise humble beginnings. Have you heard that before? Do not despise humble beginnings. Sometimes, like I said, it's just a matter of what are the small, tiny habits do I have to adopt and do I need to focus on and become patient with myself and just keep showing up, keep doing it, not judging it, not quitting before it's time. What are those things? And I love here on page 23, if you're following along in the book, and again, we're going over atomic habits. He talks about the difference between goals and systems. And a lot of times we focus a lot on the goals. And here's the thing, goals are good. Goals are not bad. Goals are good. Goals are really good. How many of y'all came into this year and you had some goals? Or maybe you carried over some goals from last year. Goals are good. But there is a difference between goals and systems. And what he talks about here is goals are the results you want to achieve. And they are good for setting direction because we need roadmaps. We need to know what we're aiming for. So goals are not bad in and of themselves. They're good. But what he talks about when it comes to systems, he said systems are the processes that lead to those results. Systems are best for making progress. And I wrote a note to myself when I read that in the book. Again, I love being transparent and just sharing myself with y'all. And I thought about some things that I procrastinated on. I thought about even leading the road for me coming back to doing live video. I procrastinated on it. There's things about, I posted yesterday on social media, there's glamorous parts of what I do as a speaker, a trainer, and a coach. And showing up, that's the easy part for me. Showing up to do this, showing up on a stage or showing up for a coaching session, that's the easy part. The hard part is the preview, the stuff that happens before getting there, or the stuff that happens after, the reports, the paperwork, all of that stuff. And so when I thought about this and I was reading all this and thinking about what habits I need to really improve on, I wrote this note in the margin of this when he described goals and systems. And I said, Tasha, you don't have a goal issue. Like I can set goals. I have journals that I have set. I have written goals. Anybody else? When I tell you I got journals, y'all, I have journals. I have a journal for January. I have a box of journals of goals, of dreams, of visions. I don't have a shortage of supply when it comes to my imagination, when it comes to setting a goal. The thing that where I get stuck and I procrastinate, and here's the thing that I even wrote, I don't even really have a procrastination issue. Are y'all ready for this? I have a systems issue. I'm gonna just say that again. I don't have a goal issue. I don't have a lack of dreams. I don't have a lack of vision. I really don't even have a procrastination issue. I have a systems issue. Now let me repeat for those of y'all who are just joining, okay? That there's a difference between systems and goals. Goals are the results that you want to achieve. They're great for setting direction, but systems are the processes that lead to those results. They are the things that are best for making progress. Systems are. And so he said a lot of times where we're missing it and why we quit before we see the results, a lot of times what happens, he said, there are problems that arise when we spend too much time thinking about the goals and not enough time designing the systems. Did that just set y'all free like it set me free? Like, talk to me here. Tracy says, yeah, I have a journal for everything. Danita says, yep. Tracy, I see your wow. But did that just set somebody free like it set me free? That when we spend more time focused on the goals and we don't spend time working on the system, which is the processes that get us the results to lead to the goals, there are problems that arise. And the problems come in the form of frustration. It comes in the form of procrastination. It comes in the form of limiting beliefs and holding ourselves back, right? But here's that's my 2 cents. But here's what Mr. Clear says. These are some problems. He said winners and losers have the same goals. He said if there's a difference between winning and losing. And if we all have it's the equivalent of the little league team. Everybody gets a trophy. It's like a participation trophy just for showing up, you know? And a lot of times if we're not careful, we have that mindset for ourselves. I showed up. I won, you know? But did we have a system? Did we have a system to progress in that area? He says problem number 2, achieving a goal is only a momentary change. I love the example that he used here where he talks about, and again, this is page 23, where he was talking about how you can have a goal to say that I want to, let's say, clean up, for example, and the end result is you have a clean room. But here's where the problem happens. You have a clean room in the moment, but if your habits don't change, guess what? If my habits don't change, we can celebrate the moment of the clean room, but if we don't have the proper habits or a system to maintain the cleanness, guess what? We're going to end up with a messy room. It's the same way when it comes to finances, y'all. I've been going through this process where I've had help to help me improve my credit, to really work on, not just saying I want to have this big, company or big financial goals, but what are the habits that I have to have in order to sustain it? Right, y'all? So that's why he says we got to know the difference between goals and systems, because you can have the goal to say, I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to lose weight. I want to, you fill in the blank, whatever your thing is. And for the most part, most of us, we can check that thing off the list and say, yeah, I did it. But do we have the habit, the system? Do we have the system and the habits to sustain it? Dr. Reese says, I believe I'm one who can process well, but learning to dream again. Thank you for sharing that, Dr. Reese. Thank you for sharing that, because I think that's where sometimes, again, that's that unlearn, learn, and relearn thing. So thank you so much for sharing that. Tracy says here, when I read about the difference between goals and systems, it blew my mind. I have to unlearn so many things. Me too, Tracy. Me too. Because I don't want to just celebrate the moments, right? I don't want to just celebrate the moment of the clean room. I want to sustain the clean room. I want to sustain the business. I want to sustain the healthy lifestyle. I want to sustain the financial freedom, all of that. So, yeah, I get it. Tracy says, I need to work with the system. Yeah, and I love how he's uncovering all of this for us up front, y'all, because now it's the thing of when we know better, we do better. But let me keep going with the problems. Problem number 3, this was profound. He said, goals restrict your happiness. How many of y'all have been found guilty? Me too. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. How many of y'all have literally said, one day then I'll be happy? You fill in the blank. When I lose weight, when I get out of debt, when I start my business, when I get married, when I travel, then I'll be happy. But he says goals restrict our happiness because we're so focused on the goals that we forget to be happy. I'm pausing on purpose because I think somebody really needed to think about that for a moment. You can have the best goals in the world, y'all. But what's the purpose or the point? What's the point in having the goals one day and putting our happiness off one day and we're ignoring today? And here's the reality. If we're not happy today, when we get the thing, we're not going to be happy. So that's why he said that's a problem. Because why put off? Where's my book? Well, I wrote that too. I wrote this note. Happiness is not just for our future self to enjoy. That is within our control. Going back to what I said earlier, it is within my control for me to choose to be happy on purpose now while I'm on the journey, so that when I get the thing that I desire, it's just going to add to my happiness experience. You got what I'm saying? It's not, I put my life on hold for that one day. That was a huge aha for me, y'all, because I was guilty of saying the one day then I will be happy. But I'm learning in this season, I don't want to put happiness off. I don't want to wait until my external circumstances change and then I'm happy. I'm deciding, because that's within my control, just like it's within your control. I'm going to be happy. And it's not the external things that are going to do it, it's the internal. I have to choose to be happy inside so everything else can be the cherry on top. I thought that was profound. And then problem number 4, he said, goals are at odds with long-term progress. It's kind of like the same concept, right? So if you focus on the 1% improvement, progress is progress, right? It's not when I conquered this mountain over here. It's progress because I'm literally building in daily habits to improve. And he says that we need, on page 27, he said we need a system of automatic habits, right, y'all? We need a system for automatic habits. And he said there were so many truth bombs in here, y'all. But he said, you do not rise to the level of your goals. You fail to the level of your systems. I'm going to say that again. You do not rise to the level of your goals. Goals are not bad. Let me just say that. Goals are not bad. Goals are great for direction. But we also need systems to help us get, those are the processes to help us get the results. We fail to the level of our systems. So if we don't have good systems, guess what? We'll experience the momentary highs here and there along the way, but it won't be enough to sustain us. He says, focusing on the overall system rather than the one single goal is one of the core themes of this very book, Atomic Habits. And he says, bringing this home, y'all, atomic habits refer to the tiny change. It's a marginal gain. It's a 1% improvement. That's the power of atomic habits. Atomic habits are the building blocks of small habits that lead to remarkable results. It's a regular practice routine that is not only small and easy to do, but it's the source of incredible power, a component of the system of compound growth. I just want to pause right there and just ask you, was this helpful for you tonight? Did you have your own aha moments from some of the things that I shared tonight about the surprising power of atomic habits? We're just scratching the surface here, y'all. But I think it's good for us to get understanding before we get excited and hyped about, oh my gosh, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. I first have to ask myself, who am I going to become in the process? That's internal. That is within my control, just like it's within your control, my friends. So that is Transformational Tuesdays with Tasha. That's our second session tonight. I'm going to be coming to you through these platforms, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, every Tuesday. And every Tuesday, we're going to go through a chapter because even I was guilty of this. Last week, when we ended, I said, yeah, we're going to do the first section. We're going to go through the first 3 chapters. And as I was reading this, I got convicted. And I was like, whoa, maybe we don't need to rush this. Maybe we do need to take the scenic route and really process this, learn it, and apply it so that we can literally grow and be that 1% improvement that we desire. Just like I showed you the illustration at the very beginning about the British cycling history. So next week, I'm going to do chapter 2. And chapter 2 is how your habits shape your identity and vice versa. You don't want to miss next week, y'all. It gets deeper. It goes deeper. It gets gooder and gooder, y'all. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. Dr. Reese, thank you for showing up tonight. Tracy says, yes, it was so powerful and informative. This chapter changed my thinking process. Thanks, Tasha. Thank you, Tracy, for showing up. Thank you, Danita, Barbara, Mertiz, and I hope I'm not missing anybody, but I'm looking at the names I see. Thank y'all for showing up. Thank you for being on this journey with me. And again, next week, chapter 2, how your habits shape your identity and vice versa. If you miss any, just know that you'll be able to capture the replays on my website, maximizedgrowthllc.com. And please, 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 if you are watching me on any of these channels, don't forget to like. If you're on YouTube, subscribe to my YouTube, like the Facebook, like the LinkedIn, because I want to stay connected to you. And I definitely appreciate you being on this journey with me. So that's it. That's all I have for tonight. Thank you for joining me for this Transformational Tuesday with Tasha. And I will see y'all next Tuesday as we dig deeper.